All right. Here we go. Are you ready to be taken on a journey? It's a crazy journey. And let me sort of preface.
Hi folks, my perspective here. Recently, Stefan Molyneux did a clip on his channel where he was mocking flat earthers. And, well, it's not the mockery that's the issue. He raised two important questions. And in this video clip, I want to address those two questions. But before we do that, just have a look at this clip and tell me what you think.
One out of two gets a rifle. The one without follows him. When the one with a rifle gets killed, the one who is following picks up the rifle and shoots. The one with the rifle shoots. The one without follows him. When the one with the rifle gets killed, the one who is following picks up the rifle and shoots. The one with the rifle shoots. This way now. The one with the rifle follows him.
Right, so Stefan Molyneux is he's sending you into battle with a rifle that doesn't work and with no bullets. So is this deliberate or is it just simply mistaken? So to set the record straight, if you believe that you're living on a ball, then that ball, Earth, is spinning and it is moving. And flat earthers believe that the Earth is fixed and not moving. I've never met a flat earther, and I know many, that will tell you that the Earth is moving. So this is connected to Stefan's other issue, is there's a conspiracy. Look, we are told that the sun, right, warps space-time, and because of this, it helps the Earth in its orbit around the sun. But if that's true, then why is the Earth rolling the wrong way? So the point is that something may appear to work, but if you look at the details, then you'll see now, well, there's something wrong. It doesn't work. And where do they get the information from? Can you verify it? Has experiments been done to prove this? So they'll say, yes, you'll take a big ball and you'll roll it down around on a sponge foam, you'll get that effect, but then it's wrong. So let's listen to Stefan, and we're going to address the two issues that he raised.
Have a interesting, and again, I know it's crazy stuff, but just go with the thought experiment, right? So they say it's not that objects are accelerating downwards. It's that the disk of the Earth is accelerating upward at 32 feet per second squared, or 9.8 meters per second. And it's propelled upwards by a mysterious force that they call dark energy. And I hate to say how I spent my evening, but let's just say that there's...
Right, so where does Stefan get his information from? I don't know. But dark matter, dark energy, this is part of NASA's fantasy world. Right, it's not part of the real world that we live in. And flat earthers just simply don't believe this. But now what Stefan's done is he's used information, but very cleverly he's turned it around. So let's just bear with me, and I'll show you how people can be sneaky. Look, if I have a big wheel and a small wheel, right? They both start at the same point and they both ended at the same point. And they travel at the same time. Which of the wheels will move faster? Or will they move at the same speed? They'll say, no, well, the small wheel has to move faster because it's smaller. They'll say, yeah, no problem with that, right? The small wheel has to move faster because it's smaller. But now if I turn it around and I change the wheels for balls, right, a big ball and a small ball, and I drop them, and I'll tell you that the acceleration is the same for both balls. Right? Therefore, in its application, they're moving at the same speed. But how can it be if the one ball is smaller than the other ball? So the education system tells us that Galileo, he did this experiment right. He dropped the two balls from a leaning tower of Pisa. They landed at the same time. So therefore the acceleration is the same. And both balls drop at the same speed. But yet, in all of Galileo's writings, he never mentions this experience once. He never mentions this experiment once. It was only about 15 or 16 years after his death that other people said that this experiment was done by him. Other sources say, no, it was done by other people, some other scientists at that time, about 15 or 20 years before Galileo did this experiment. So which one is true? Are we being dealt a fair hand, or are we being played? So if we apply that information in the motion of the sun and moon and stars, right? Well, if they're all moving at the same speed, the planets are all different sizes. They should all be moving at the same speed. How do I apply the information that they're giving me in a practical way in the very universe that it's supposed to work in? It's not about the size of the orbits. It's not about the big orbit or small orbit. It's about the speed of the planets. Why are they all traveling at different speeds then, if gravity causes things to move at the same speed? In other words, it's the application of the information. What we see on Earth doesn't match with what they're telling us. That's the problem. So is this deliberate? Is there a conspiracy to mislead us?
A feather. In my right hand, a hammer. And I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago, who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And we thought that where would be a better place to confirm his findings than on the moon. And so we thought we'd try it here for you. The feather happens to be appropriately a falcon feather for our falcon. And I'll drop the two of them here, and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time. How about that? It proves that Mr. Galileo was correct in his findings.
Right, so if we apply that information to the limb, right, it wouldn't make any difference if the limb weighed as much as a herd of elephants or the weight of a falcon feather. So why do the Grumman engineers and the NASA engineers say that they sweated blood to get the limb under a certain weight so that it could land on the moon and that it could do so successfully? Do you understand? The experiment should back up what they're telling us. The experiment shows one thing and what they're telling us says another thing. And that's the issue. Look, if I have a limb, right, I have to ask myself, how's this thing moving in space? Where's the center of balance? It has to be where the rocket is, right? So if this thing is landing, right, and the people inside are moving around the center of balance, the fact that there's a rocket underneath, it's not going to change the center of balance. That rocket will just swivel around in space and is moving sideways at the same time. What's controlling speed? How do you stop? How do you measure speed? How do you measure distance in a vacuum? Right? These are the issues that simply don't add up. The whole thing looks like a magic show. Right? The information and the tests that they do don't add up. So they'll tell you, no, that's because you're too stupid to understand it. And the fact is, no, The fact is, you understand it, it doesn't make sense because they're talking nonsense. That's reality. So let's have a look how Stefan twisted the information around. Right, and we're going to discuss this in detail, and let's see.
Interesting, and again, I know it's crazy stuff, but just go with the thought experiment, right? So they say it's not that objects are accelerating downwards, it's that the disk of the Earth is accelerating upward at 32 feet per second squared, or 9.8 meters per second. And it's propelled upwards by a mysterious force that they call dark energy. And
The thrill is gone away. Thrill is gone, baby.
Right. If you believe you're living on a spinning ball, right, then you believe what Stefan was saying. So let me show you how. Look, he's saying that if the Earth is moving up, right, the Earth will actually move into the balls, right? And that this is just simply crazy. Nobody could believe this. Yet this is what you believe if you believe you're living on a spinning ball. And you'll say how, and I'm going to show you how. Look, let's just say I turn the tower upside down, right, and now it drops the balls, right? Where will the balls go? Well, they'll have to continue down, right? They have to, because it's part of the same thought experiment, right? Now, if I add gravity to the equation, right, well, then the balls will move up. And if I put the whole thing on its side now, it's the same thing, right? I add a sun, right? And now everything's just moving sideways, but up is still up and down is down from the tower's position. Therefore, if I drop a ball from these two towers, right, and they land at the same time, and the Earth is moving, how can the two balls land at the same time? Because they traveled at different distances. So the ball on the left-hand side had to move faster, and the ball on the right-hand tower had to move slower because it traveled a shorter distance, right? And it gets worse. So do you understand that if the Earth is moving, it doesn't matter whether I put this on its side or I put it on the other side, the information is the same.
The thrill is gone away. Thrill is gone, baby. The thrill is gone away.
So how does it get worse? Well, at sunset, right, because the Earth's rotating and it's moving. At sunset, you drop the ball has to move with the Earth's motion. It has to move faster, and at sunrise, the opposite is true. Right? It's the Earth is moving into the ball at sunset and away from the ball at sunrise. So if I drop a ball, right, and the tower is motionless, well, the ball will drop straight down. Right? If the tower is moving, right, then what distance would the ball travel? Well, the ball can't travel the same. The distance isn't down the path of the tower, but is along the line of the motion of that path. So they'll say, no, everything is relative, right? That's why you can't work it out this way. It's in reference to the tower. You ignore the Earth's spin and you ignore the Earth's movement around the sun. Well, that's double standards. So if the Earth's rotating around an axis, a tower closer to the rotation of the axis will move slower, and a tower at the equator would move faster. You should have different results. So how can things land at the same speed? Because they're moving at different speeds. I mean, a skydiver landing at the equator will be moving along the Earth's spin faster. And then we have to add the motion around the sun. So a balloon that takes off, right, from the Earth, if the Earth is motionless and gravity pulls it down. So remember, the balloon is floating. So it's free of gravity. Yet it still manages, a balloon at sunrise, right, still manages to move away from the Earth at the same speed as a balloon on the other side. The balloon on the opposite side, right, still avoids the gravity because it's floating, but still somehow is sucked along with the Earth. And if the Earth is spinning, well, at midday and at midnight you should get different results because it's turning in the opposite direction. How is it that the result is always the same? So is this a conspiracy?
Of conspiracy theories. The media supplies news, not propaganda. Government schools supply education, not propaganda. Movies supply entertainment, not propaganda. Cell phones are useful information appliances, not intergalactic spying devices.
Right, so Stefan Molyneux says, right, if you believe in conspiracies, then you're crazy. It's crazy stuff, man. Yet the US Naval Institute says that the American government conspired against its own people to bring them into the war of Vietnam. And they used the media and they used the education system to do it. Stefan Molyneux says, no, conspiracies don't happen. Right, I'm crazy if I believe that there's a worldwide conspiracy to mislead the entire earth. Adolf Hitler, right? It was a conspiracy to remove him by his own generals. He only found out about it when they tried to murder him and get rid of him. Right? His own generals. Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar understood that there was a conspiracy against him. Just how big it was, he wasn't sure until it happened. Another conspiracy is the Opium Wars that was controlled by the Jesuits. Right, how the Jesuits used opium and smuggled it into China when the emperor kicked them out, right? They used the British Army and the British Navy, the most powerful force at that time in history, to bring the opium into China. It made the Jesuits wealthy, made them a lot of money, and they took over control of the whole Chinese economy. Right? And that was a conspiracy. Do you think they went over to the emperor and said, look, this is what we plan to do? Or did they keep it a secret? Right, so this is a conspiracy that's not well known, but it's there. And it's shocking because the people who did this claim to be Christians. They claim to have the best interest at heart of the people. We are here to serve you. We are here to do the best. We are here to help you. And it was a lie. So conspiracies are real. Right? Look. Right, so they'll talk about the Foucault pendulum. Right? That this pendulum can be used to show the rotation of the earth. Look where they put the pendulum, on top of the earth. That means if I put this pendulum on top, right, and if I put the pendulum at the equator, or I put it in Paris, right, it'll all be spinning and they're not rotating around the center axis. How can the pendulum swing around? Or is this just a mass hypnosis device? I have to go with a mass hypnosis device because its scientific value is absolutely zero. It doesn't add up. Right, so how on earth can the Foucault pendulum measure the rotation of the earth if it's not at the earth's axis? How can the Foucault pendulum ignore the earth's motion around the sun? It simply does not add up. It's a gimmick.
Thrill is gone, baby. Thrill is gone away.
So if I use simple observations, for example, like a train that's not moving, and I see how the smoke rises straight up, and when the train moves, well then the smoke from the train cannot rise straight up. And if I see a volcano erupting and the debris moving straight up and the smoke and debris moving straight up, right, I have to conclude that the Earth's not moving. But if I make these simple observations, right, no, then those observations that you make as an individual, they simply don't count.
Propaganda. Movies supply entertainment, not propaganda.
After a deluded gunman assassinated President Kennedy,
So the fact that you ignore the evidence, that there is a conspiracy, doesn't mean the conspiracy doesn't exist. It simply means you are blind and you're asleep. And Stefan Molyneux, he's asleep. That's his problem. Because he's blind and asleep, he mocks those who are awake and are paying attention to the world around them. So I hope this makes you think, and cheers and thanks for watching.